Hi guys, since the little post I put on about dibbling last week, I've had a lot of people asking me how I go about it, you know, a few more of the details about how I do the dibbling. So I thought I'll put a little video together just to show you some of the tricks that I use really to keep the bites coming. So let's see what we can do. So here we are on a wintry canal. We've had loads of rain just on Tuss's Lower Division stretch here. Pretty coloured water, so in that situation I choose, or I first tend to go to sort of a fluorescent orange jighead. Love the orange, although pink, yellow, white works pretty well. And on this occasion I've got a realistic shad split tail. That's 6 centimeters, loads of movement. So that's 2 gram, nice and sharp hook, which is pretty important when you're dibbling, really. And that gives us lots of movement when we're in the water. So you can see, even in that coloured water, we're getting a good 6 to 8 inches of visibility still, which is going to give us an advantage really at the moment. Right folks, so where do we dibble? Well, as you all know, or a lot will know, that the perch especially love a bit of structure. So we've got loads of concrete walls here, tin walls, locks over there, and the lock mouse. If you can get round by the boats, if you know, you can get close to the boats, any bit of vegetation hanging over into the canal there. It's not too much on this stretch here, but and then when I say we're fishing next to it, don't be afraid to sort of fish right next to it here, right in tight. A lot of the banks are undercut, and you'll find some sort of hot spots. You will find some snags as well, but you'll find some hot spots. So we're fishing right in tight, especially anywhere where we've got about 2 foot of water. So I'll tie my fluorocarbon on. I'll usually put 2 foot on. If the knot's in the water, I know I've got a good chance, especially for winter. So we'll talk more about sort of the colder water fishing today. If you haven't got enough water there, you can always go out 10 inches, 8 inches or so, have another try, and just keep moving out, because it is just as effective sort of a metre or 2 meters away from the bank as it is next to the structures, if the fish are there. You know pretty quickly normally, sometimes not. So I would just walk up this structure, keep them really tight to the bank, and covering some water. Okay, so it's worth mentioning a bit more about the gear. So dibbling, you need a rod that will allow you to feel the weight of the jighead, and you want to feel, it quite comfortably, really. Lots of reasons for this. You need to be able to feel when your jighead's on the bottom. So really, that will be able to help you gauge how far or how deep you're fishing. And also, some of the bites from the smaller perch are pretty sensitive. You'll feel them, but if your rod's too heavy, you won't feel them. Perch will definitely feel your rod and will start trying to eject that bait pretty quickly. So balancing the setup is pretty important. Braid's not too much of an issue. I go sort of 10 pound-ish and a 5 pound flouro. Reel doesn't really matter if you're not using it. Just make sure you can feel the weight. So we're talking sort of winter now. This is how I'll start. Drop the lure in till it reaches the bottom. And you know it reaches the bottom because your line goes slack. So then lift the rod up till you can just feel the tension, but not taking the jighead off the bottom. Then basically you can use that to gauge how deep you're fishing. And this time of year I'm fishing about 1 inch off the bottom, 1 to 2 inches, and I want to try and keep it there. So that can take some practice as you walk in, the depth changes, but you can constantly keep checking in with where the bottom is by dropping and seeing the slack there. So we've got the basic setup. We know roughly how to sort of find the bottom. Also, finding the bottom will help you find any sort of nice dips and stones from there. So with all that in mind, we've got to then think about how we're going to work the lure, and a lot of that depends on the kind of lure you've got on, how fast you want to move the lure really, and the size of fish, I guess, the size of fish you're going for. So as I mentioned earlier, this is my sort of winter style of dibbling. So I like the 2 gram jighead. That allows me to cover ground and feel the lure a bit quicker. If I was trying to pace up the canal and keep the jighead near the bottom, at that point you'd need to use a heavier jighead to keep it down to counteract your sort of walking. But when this time of year, I'm kind of not even really moving. I'm taking sort of 4-inch steps to keep that lure as close to the bottom as possible. So 2 gram helps me out. So fishing this split tail, again this time of year, when I don't want too much movement in the lure, what I'm trying to do is fish this lure an inch or 2 off the bottom, and that is pretty much the amount of movement I'm trying to put into it. I mean, in the summer, I see people flicking the lure around the place. It will work, it will catch your fish, but I just get a lot more fish, a lot more bites, especially this time of year, by fishing a lot more subtle. I can keep this in one place under my feet for as long as I like, and you'll be amazed. Sometimes I've been on the phone dibbling in one spot 5 minutes, all of a sudden you get the knock and you're into a fish. So think about the lure you're going to use, have a little practice, have a look at how it's going to move, and have a look at sort of the actions you're imparting into that lure. So if you just drop it straight down to the bottom and start fishing away, you're not going to see how that lure's moving. So that is as much movement that I'm trying to put into it this time of year. So instead, what I prefer to do is I pull the knot towards the back of the eye, make sure it's nice and tight, and then when that goes in the water, let's try and get that to focus. There we go. It'll always sit horizontally in a lay, so you get less used to that tail. And if you've got a floating lure, it probably wouldn't matter. A lot of lures have got a bit of buoyancy even if they do sink, so the realistic shad ones are slightly buoyant. They don't float by any means, but that will help get more bites in my opinion. It looks a little bit more realistic, especially if you're using some of the more natural colours. So ditch the clips and the snap links, etc. if you're having a go at dibbling. So chaps, that is a quick insight into dibbling. There's loads more to it than that, loads more. Rigging different baits, a different size jig heads for the different lures. I tend to go a bit heavier if I'm fishing a paddle tail. There's other reasons for that, but we can talk about it another time if you're interested. I hope that helps a few of you catch a few more fish. It certainly is an effective method. It might not catch the biggest fish all the time, but it keeps the bites coming. Great for the kids. So yeah, if you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments or send me a message. And if you like what you see, let me know and I'll keep posting a few more. Cheers, folks. Whoa, wait a minute, folks, nearly forgot something. So eventually you're going to get a bite. You can feel a good positive bump probably on the rod, depending on the size of fish, but with this method you do tend to feel a good bit. Don't just lift into the fish sort of expecting it to stay on, because if it's a zander or if the perch doesn't really get hold of it, it's going to come off. So make sure you give a bit of a strike, even if you feel the bump and you think the fish is on. Don't lose it.